Okay, we good now? No? It's not going?
Testing.
Testing. You got anything else?
I've got internet.
We'll try it now. Okay,
Test.
we got it now. Okay, we'd like to call the order of the Pleasant Grove City Council on Tuesday, January the 8th, 2019, our work session. And we welcome everyone who has joined us here, and I especially welcome all of the council who are all present, and a lot of the staff are along here with us for our work session. First thing we'd like to have our general counsel come forward and introduce a new hire to our staff.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce you to my new legal assistant. Her name is Jessica Lander, and today is her whole second day on the job. And I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Hi, it's good to see you guys again. Thank you so much for making me feel so welcome here. I'm really happy to be here. Is there anything in particular you'd like to know about me?
Tell us where you're from.
Yeah, tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from.
Yourself,
And
your education, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Santaquin, Utah, and I went to BYU. I went for a stint out in San Francisco to start my legal career, and decided I loved Utah too much, and decided to be back by family, and I'm just a Utah girl at heart. So came back here, and I was lucky to get the job here.
So,
Great.
congratulations.
Welcome.
Glad you're here.
Welcome.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We now have one recognition of one of our city employees, and we have Sean Hilton. He's here. Come forward.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at you and you says, well, no, that's not me.
He has no idea why he's here.
You know why you're here this evening?
Oh.
Okay.
Marty told me to be here
Surprise.
by 5.
The whipping may begin.
Whippings will continue until morale improves.
Sweet Sean.
I thought it was about the Hidden Springs project, but maybe I'm off on that. I don't know.
I do.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we received a report of something you did from one of our citizens, and we're grateful for your reply to him. It was, I think it was, let's see, Craig Allred. You remember dealing with Craig Allred and a problem on his street? And, yeah, and you impressed him, and you took care of the problem, and he thought we ought to know about it, and so we're grateful he let us know about it, because we want all of our employees to do like you have done, and they do every day, and just go above and beyond in serving our citizens of our community. So thank you very much, and we have a gift certificate for you. So, and that's the good part too. Yeah. So good has been replaced with more good.
Thank you so much.
So if you come forward, we'd like to shake your hand.
Where is it here?
Thanks, I appreciate it. Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Can I just add that we are working on a employee recognition process, so that, because every once in a while we get comments. This was started by an email to me from an individual that had received good customer service from the city. I forwarded it on to you whenever that was last month, and the council came back and said, we would like to have a public recognition, and we would like to have a kind of a reward that goes with that. So and we've done this from time to time, but we probably haven't been super consistent on it. So we wanted to start with Sean with his recognition and have him come. But we're discussing this next week as staff to make sure we have a specific process, so when this comes up that we can make sure we get them in front of council, get them here, and then we have a little bit of reward for their service. So we'll have that process figured out. Just Sean's our initial one.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Sean. Customer experiences are key.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to have your wife call me. Oh, yeah. Well, no, is there a live stream right now? I don't know if there is. Oh, good. It's recorded.
Okay, we'll now move to our item number 2, So Much Hope presentation. And if you guys will come forward. Sherry's and yeah, come forward.
So Sharon Moritzen, did I say her name correctly? Yes, lives here, and she came like some sewing machines, and I was eager to accept. I'm always happy to take nice gifts for the library, but we were in the middle of remodeling and figuring out where they would go and things like that. I still haven't figured that out, but we'll magically come up with something. And so she came back after we were done with that project, and the organization she's with, So Much Hope, is donating them, and I wanted them to come and tell us about their organization and why they do this.
Okay. Having us. I'm Gina Barney.
And I'm Moana Burgess. We're both from, I'm from New Zealand, Gina's from Australia. We've lost our accents because we immigrated when we were teenagers.
How you know
And
Sharon?
people didn't know,
Kiwi
yes.
or-
And yes, Sharon.
And that's how we know Sharon. And anyhow, we moved to the States in our teens. We both ended up living in Alpine and married Alpine boys, raised our families. And we have been quilters for 30 plus years. And we've always wanted to do something that had to do with quilting. And we started a business a couple of years ago. We've done road trips with quilters to go quilt. And a couple of years ago, we had the opportunity to buy the largest quilting show in Utah, and the previous owner had passed away, and Gina knew her and reached out. And anyhow, we own Utah Quilting and Sewing Marketplace. It's at the Mountain America Expo Center every May. When we were pulling the business together, my husband said, you need some legal advice, because, you know, we had no clue what we were doing. And so we met with a lawyer in Salt Lake, and he gave us some advice and spent a couple of hours with us, and we went to pay him. A nonprofit called So Much Hope, and it's spelled S-E-W.
Well, so Much Hope really was a gift to us, something we had planned when we wanted to do business. We always wanted to give back. And so our business plan, along with So Much Hope, was to be able to provide the skill to learn to sew and to be able to provide for their families by making a living. And so we've found that through So Much Hope. And what we've been able to do locally is, first off, at our show, which is in May, the first week in May, we have a quilt auction. And we have a company donate fabric, and then we have these quilts made, and they're phenomenal. They're by amazing quilters, and they're auctioned. And the money, 100% of the money, goes towards So Much Hope. And so the first year we did it, we raised $10,000, and we've been doing that ever since. Our next show is in May, and of course we'll do the same thing. It's worked really well. We've also been able to travel. We just recently went to Africa, where we took sewing machines. So Gino, who is the one who's been doing So Much Hope on his own for probably 30 plus years, and he takes sewing machines and he turns them cranked. And so those hand crank machines don't need electricity. And we take those around the world to places where they don't have electricity, and we teach sewing. And we set up sewing schools in places where they can make a living and provide for their families. So locally, we want to do something too. And we found a need in the libraries. Sharon is the one who really kind of keeps us all organized. And she found this need by working with the libraries. So we've placed sewing machines at the Glendale Library, the Marmalade Library, and now Pleasant Grove. And we're finding that by setting up sewing schools, we're finding people who have a need to come in and learn to sew and have the skill of
They could use it for
sewing.
mending or to make a living.
So kind of explain how, are you teaching actual classes for kids and adults, or just kind of tell me a little bit about how it works.
We work with the libraries. We actually have a criteria for how the sewing machines are used. The new ones we actually keep in the facility, and they are to be left at the facility. We also provide, So Much Hope has electrical machines that we refurbish, and those ones can be checked out. And they have a criteria to meet where they have to actually watch a video and learn a few basic sewing skills. So Moana and I, along with, we get many volunteers who come in the different areas and volunteer their time, and we teach basic sewing classes. And we're kind of allowing the libraries to, we're spearheading it, but we're allowing them to run their own programs and organize
it's kind of for all ages, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the library.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh,
we
I
have
love
partnered
this.
with one of your local businesses, Nuttles, and this is Rhonda Lopez. She is the owner of the Nuttles stores. There's 4 of them throughout Utah. And so we purchased the machines from her because she gave us a really good deal. And so she's here representing her business. And thank her.
Yeah, and so she also, along with that, they repair and fix the machines and keep them running for us in the local libraries.
Oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Very nice.
So we have 5 that we're going to leave here, and Sherry will be in touch with her on how to run
So
this.
you'll coordinate with Sherry on whether it's, and is it like group classes, I guess, however many sewing machines you have, or?
It's all up to Sherry.
It's all up to well, sewing machines can be shared. I mean, it's not like you just have 5. And people can, yeah, we'll be working with Sherry to figure out what works best for this area and what the need is.
Well, Sherry, please let us know when it's up and going so we can help get the word out on our city website and newsletter and let people know about this, because this is awesome. Yeah, it's kind of almost getting to be a little bit of a lost art in a way, so. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Excited to work with you.
And we appreciate Nuttles being part of our community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay.
We're thrilled.
You have to have the right building in the right place at the right time.
And Nuttles have done a great job with furnishing for years and years all our sewing machines in all of our schools in Alpine School District, and probably other districts too.
Yes.
So they do know their sewing machines.
Carried them for a while.
Yep.
A little over.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Scott, are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, we'll now move to item 3. This is one we all been talking about a little bit here the last couple of months here, and about our detention pond in the downtown park and some solutions, what we can do with that if we would like.
Is it detention or retention?
Detention. So
Really?
here's the
Retention?
difference, and I've had to have
I
this
wanna know the
explained to me
difference.
10 different times.
All right.
Okay, so retention is when the water stays in the pond and there's no outlet and it just seeps into the ground.
Got it.
Detention, it holds it for a time, but there is an outlet structure and it just releases the water so that it just doesn't all hit at once. So
Got
it
it.
gathers it and then it releases it in a timely manner.
Detention it is.
So detention basin is what we're talking about. I'm sure Marty's having fun with the audio visual.
Really, Marty, we couldn't tell.
We've seen this movie before.
Yeah, I think we have. And good news on the new building. Everything's going to be wired so that we will be able to connect to our computers, have it display.
Marty's going to be out of a job then.
We don't, yeah, I don't know what Marty's going to do. He doesn't need to come to council meetings
Where's
anymore.
the fun in
Hire
that?
a shorter person.
Okay, so as we've done our new police and fire station over here, we have requirements as a city for any development in our community that they have to detain water. And part of it is you have to detain water on site. So as we developed this area, there wasn't enough room within the footprint of where the buildings were to detain water. So we made the decision to detain the water in this area right here. Now, once they came in and dug the hole on where this detention basin was going to be, it became clear, and this was an option that we considered because it was really the cheapest option for us to do. Once the hole was dug, we started getting feedback, and you take a look at it, it's like, well, first of all, that hole's pretty deep. Second of all, what are we going to be able to do with that part of the park with that hole there? Now, right now, it's a big dirt hole. It would eventually be landscaped and it would be grass. And so, in essence, kids could play in there, but it would not be this level surface.
How deep would it currently be?
I don't know.
Top of the berm?
Yeah, it's probably 4 feet.
Water depth maximum is about 3 feet.
Okay. But 4 feet slope.
Slope 3 to 1 down.
Yep.
So which is
Yeah.
by landscape.
Sleddable. No sleddable.
So we had
For
the
little kids. Not very far.
Not carnivalable.
Yeah.
Right.
yes. So we had that discussion about the use of this property by having the detention basin there. Yes, kids can still play, but what about when the carnival comes and other needs where we would probably prefer that's a little bit more level, a little more flat. So we turned to Marty and said, okay, Marty, help us out. What are some ways that we can do this? As we did this initially, this was the cheapest option. So if we want to make this property more usable, we're going to have to invest a little bit more money, which is fine, because in the long term, we want this to be the best use of the park. And if we have to invest some money now, then we're at the right time because they have not finished the project yet. And so this is something that we would do this spring, whatever our choices are. So Marty's created 2 options on how we can detain this water and keep a relatively flat spot there of usable property once we take care of our detention. So with that, Marty, do you want to come up here?
Touch this.
Okay, you just come up here.
I just needed that point. Looked at a number of options. I mean, we were asked, well, do we have to have it in the first place? Can we move it off-site? And really what we came up with, and I think we have to understand what Scott said was this was the cheapest option, and it's partially constructed right now. But if we would have included it as something that was underground, so one of our options is doing an underground facility, it would have cost us more on the original bid because we would have had to put that underground. So we're not talking about additional cost per se. It's just a matter of we didn't ever have it in the bid, and now we're talking about if we put it underground, then we're putting it in the bid and having to pay for that additional cost to do that. So there's a little bit there because they have constructed it. We would still be able to use a lot of the structures that are there, the piping that's there. We would just tie it into an underground drainage system. So one option is to do an underground drainage. I'm going to say that second. One of the other options that we looked at is, what if rather than having something that's so, you gotta be kidding me.
I'm blaming Kyler.
Oh my heavens. So I'm going to connect Scott here. I tried that, and that thing is kind of.
Is it your laptop
dated.
or is it the wiring? Sherry, do you,
I'll connect, but.
One word, Microsoft.
Sherry, do you have problems running library programs or anything? Just checking.
They don't use the display.
But is there any times when someone outside would need to come in and plug it there? Okay.
It's going to show the old. Well. There is more. Maybe let's say that there's probably 30% more, because that whole area in front of the old rec center was all grass, and now it's all impervious, right? There's very little landscaping on the site, but it probably plus or minus, but.
I'm okay building. I mean, I think it's needed. You know, it's needed. But it seems like we're using all of this. Now, I understand that's a lot of that is construction, right? And it's going to be lowered. But where is that? If we leave it as it is, where is that? Where's the tension?
What you see out there, I believe, is constructed and fine. And there's a good, probably 100 feet or so here. Maybe it's 60 feet from the end of that slope to the corner. Yeah, so it's a big structure, and it needed to detain. I mean, that's a lot of impervious area. When it rains a lot, we've got to be able to manage that. And again, it is a requirement. It's in our ordinance. It is what everybody else has to do with redevelopment property.
Yep.
So there's two options that we looked at. Both options would create a little less impact less impact than what's currently there. And that is that if we created a berm along the south edge of this, so right now you've got a hole, right? So if we just created a berm that was about 2 to 2.5 foot tall along the sidewalk.
A berm going up or berm going down?
A berm going up about 2.5 feet along the sidewalk, so it would be similar to what you're seeing there, but only on one side, and we would berm it up and drop it off probably in about 10 feet, 10 to 12 foot off of the sidewalk, and then continue that berm down around this area here and create we would have to regrade the area. The park's already being discussed about being redone. We would have to regrade this area here. So what that would do is that would tie this existing grassy area straight down into the park, and the only real impact would be along here.
Oh, I see.
Does that make sense?
Slope gradually down. There's a natural slope anyway.
I think it ended up being like a 10.
Yeah, it slopes all to the corner, and then the berm would hold the water.
It would be like so right now it might be at, let's say it's at a 3%, 4% slope. We might have to take that to like a 10% slope, but 10% slopes on landscaping is nothing, and it's something that you can manage with regards to the carnival and whatever.
Wouldn't
it is.
even
You
notice it.
wouldn't notice it if
Yeah.
you
No,
were
you wouldn't.
And we're only talking that, 2.5 feet as an option. And then that area, because we have more surface area, when the water backs up, it would back up into that area during a large storm. So the question then came, well, what if we have equipment and things in the detention pond? The only thing that I could
during a big rainstorm.
big rainstorm, you're in the middle of Strawberry Days and you've got some equipment down in the basin and you fill this up with 2 feet of water.
Barbecue.
What do we do?
Sitting in the middle of the pond.
The honest truth
It
is
absolutely happened.
and so what we figured we could do if we go with this option, we would put in a gate that we could manage, and we would open up that gate so it wouldn't detain when we have something in the basin. We'll just let it flow through, and so we would address it that way if we were to do that option, just because we have uses that would require that space, and we wouldn't want a foot of water in that space with other equipment, things of that nature. So that was one option that we kind of said, okay, that's an option.
How far north would that?
It would go in almost right to the
That
pavilion.
umbrella.
So it was kind of, it was kind of right through here. So that was kind of the high water mark in that detention pond would fill up. At this point, it would be about 2 foot deep. And then by here, you're 0 foot deep, right? You're out to nothing at the high water mark through that area.
What would the cost be on that one?
We estimated about $40,000 to excavate all of that down.
What if the mayor did it?
30.
No, we'd have to charge more to let the mayor do it.
Okay, all right, so that's option
So
one.
earthwork, we'd have to regrade, haul off extra material, all of that kind of stuff.
Now, is all of our sprinkling system?
Well, it's already planned to be redone.
Right, anyway.
Yeah.
And that would just be grassed, it would be mobile.
But everything would just be landscaped back into sod.
No, I've been a mama at soccer games all.
Not a big deal.
Probably a detention pond.
It's a detention pond.
A lot of them are in the bottom of detention ponds. So that was option one. I think we could make it so the space is still usable. We could manage it. Again, we wouldn't want that head gate always up. We would just say if we have an activity, an event that we've scheduled there, we would lift that up just to make sure. But it would be a manual things we would have to do in order to manage, make sure that we don't fill that up.
It's a really hard question, and then you're going to May, June, July, August, September, 5 months. How many days do you anticipate water being in that retention?
How many storms happen during that? I would say normally if there is a storm event, it'll start, so this is going to be a 10-year detention facility. So once in 10 years, you would expect it full concept, right? It could happen multiple times in any given year, but generally once in 10 year, it would be all the way full. A 1-year storm might fill up the very corner of it and just kind of get it into this area.
But it's not going to be soggy down there.
No.
Right.
It'll only be soggy if we had a whole couple weeks of storms, and then it didn't have time to drain out. But like I said, if we had an event, we could probably mitigate that and let some of that flow through. And
So
and
I have,
a
just
big
so everybody
area.
knows, I have a detention basin in my neighborhood, and it's rarely full. We just kind of use it as a gathering area, park, you know. It's a detention, not a bermed.
So that would be one that we could get rid of. No. Just shallow, yeah. It's not like the one at the rec center where you've really got 3 feet or so to fill up. We're talking like 2 foot of depth over a big area, very shallow area. So that's option one. Option two would be to use about the same area of the existing impact. You've seen the berms, the extent of that. If you went and did an underground detention facility, Essentially, they're pipes that you would put underground that holds the same amount of volume as you're generating with the pond. We got all of the design details, and I had Aaron run all the calculations, and we can get that facility completely under the ground with very little impact to the above ground. So we're talking within 6 inches type of elevation to get cover on top of an underground detention facility. The cost of that, again, you wouldn't see it, you wouldn't know it's there. It would just be a matter of it fills up and drains down as needed. We wouldn't have to mess with the head gate in that scenario. We figure it's going to be about $75,000 to $80,000 to do a fully underground system. Yeah, we wouldn't want to drive large stakes down into it, but we're talking we would still have about 2 feet of cover over top of any of the facilities that are there. So there's not going to be a weight issue or anything like that with equipment. I don't think we'd have any problems with any standard. I mean, normally they're under parking lots. You know, anything that you would put on a parking lot, that would be that type of facility that you'd put and drive on and have those issues. Yeah, you could consider doing that and just understand the risk, I guess, of doing that. These underground systems, so you create a system that really you have one pipe that you're maintaining. The rest of them are just flowing through rocks. So the water, you have one pipe that's perforated. Everything flows into an area and out of an area, but you never clean it. You never get into it. I would say let's get the isolator row, which is your single pipe, out from under a pavilion, put it along the sidewalk, give us a barrier there, so that if we ever had to maintain that, we could do that. But the rest of the stuff is probably not a concern to have some sort of a structure over top of. Very low risk of ever having to get in there to maintain it, just because it really is not, you don't put water right into it, it just flows through rock and then back out through rock to get back out of the system.
No other options. Those are the.
Or leave it as is.
I'm just gonna be simple. I'm in favor of putting it back the way it was, underground. So.
I am too. I mean, that's
The way it was
before.
originally.
Originally, what do you mean?
Before they
Like
put what they have
before.
now.
You're just saying it's going to look.
Yeah.
Oh,
The same
it wasn't. We didn't have underground